namely that antidepressants often do not do what they promise and are in fact causing harm to many.
Dr. Steve Hotze is suing over Obamacare's employer mandate.
It's time for a wellness revolution. Brought to you by Hotze Health Wellness Center. Honest discussion on maintaining health and wellness naturally to enjoy a better quality of life.
He's the doctor fighting to let you keep your doctor.
Now, Dr. Stephen Hotze.
Thank you for joining us today here at Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution. I'm Susie Banfield here with Dr. Stephen Hotze, founder of the Hotze Health Wellness Center. And just a quick reminder, if you haven't already done so, to go to hotzepodcast.com. That's HOTZE podcast.com to download all of our podcast programs. And of course, if you are watching us on YouTube, you can also quickly become a subscriber just by hitting that subscriber button. We have an awesome guest on tap for you today. Pam White is joining us for today's program.
Well, thank you, Stacy, and thank each one of you for joining us here today on Hotze Podcast and on our YouTube video. So if you'd like to, just hit the subscribe button and you'll make sure you get our YouTube videos every time. You can always go to our podcast day or night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and listen to one of our podcasts. You can look down on what topic you may be interested in. I'm Dr. Hotze, and I believe that you need a health coach. That's right. You need a doctor and a staff of professionals who can coach you on the path of health and wellness naturally without using any pharmaceutical drugs, so that as you mature, you enjoy a better quality life. Or that if you've been under the weather, not doing well, and had a lot of health issues, you can get your life back. We're visiting today with a longtime friend of mine and my wife, Janie, and a wonderful guest here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center, Pam White. Pam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Hotze. I'm tickled to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you here, too. Now, Pam, you have a very interesting story, which is not uncommon here at the Health and Wellness Center, but you've been such a strong advocate of our program and have referred so many people over, and we're grateful for that, because that's how we really build at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. We prefer to build organically. I like Pam White, and I like her husband, David, and I know they hang around people like themselves, and so we like to have your friends come in because they're like you, and we like them. They share our beliefs about natural approaches to health and cultural values and all those things, so it makes for a very good friendship. So, Pam, tell us what was going on in your life before you first tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you come from? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the panhandle of Texas in a real small little sandy town where...
Called what? What's the name of it?
Bovina. Bovina, Texas.
Is that near Plainview?
It's probably about 75 miles north and west of Plainview.
Yeah.
So, anyway, more cattle living in Palmer County than people live in Palmer County. But anyway, it's a great little place to grow up.
And you ended up meeting your husband, David, who's a pilot for one of the major airlines here in the country. And you met him, and I remember you had a wonderful story about how all that worked out. I remember David telling me about that. So you all ended up, how long have you been down here in the Houston area?
We've been in Houston in this area for 11 years.
Right. So tell us what was going on with your health that made you decide that you needed to try some alternative approaches.
Well, I just always been very vibrant and had a lot of energy, and then all of a sudden I woke up and I wasn't having energy and I wasn't able to sleep. I was exercising as much as I had always done, but yet it wasn't having the same effect not only on my mind but on my body, and I just generally felt like I was in a decline. And so of course, I'd always taken really good care of myself, which included going to the doctor annually for checkups, and I had an internist and I had a gynecologist, both who were just very much influencing me to go on cholesterol drugs because my cholesterol was high. It was like at 230. And I told them I refused to do that. So I just walked out of one of their offices, went to Barnes & Noble, got a book on cholesterol. I'd had a hysterectomy about 9 or 10 years prior to that.
And you'd been on a Vivel dot, which is a estrogen patch.
So that was the only supplementation as far as hormones that I was on since my hysterectomy. So I realized that, oh my gosh, all of these symptoms are because of my hormone levels being depleted. And so that guided me to start doing some research. And I knew there was a doctor in Lubbock that had practiced in this. And I'd had a friend years before who had mentioned you, but I actually didn't know you were in Katy until I started doing some research. So David came in, I told him, I was like, hey, listen, well, he had seen your article in their magazine, their company magazine,
Right.
all those years. So he's like, well, let's just go here. It's local. So we decided to come here, and it has just literally been life-changing.
So you came in and you had, let's go review the symptoms. You had fatigue. Had you had any difficulty with your weight at all at that time?
Yes, I was gaining weight like crazy, and I was trying to eat better, eat well, but, you know.
Wasn't making any difference. Trying to exercise. And
Exercising 5 days a week like I'd always done.
And were you experiencing anything as far as your mental acuity, mental sharpness?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That was probably one of the most frightening things that had happened is I realized that my memory was kind of being affected by it. And so
How were your sleep patterns?
I was sleeping about 2 hours a night.
Uh-oh.
So, and those 2 hours were not restful sleep. And
So you're dragging around all day then if you're only getting 2 hours of sleep and not recovering, not rejuvenating.
But not rejuvenating. And so what?
Did you have
really
any joint muscle aches and pains?
No, not really. I didn't have that. I just felt mostly lethargic and just not with it.
Now, this is very common. Now, mind you, Pam had a hysterectomy about 9 years. What age did you have that?
I had about 42.
Okay. Now, did they remove your ovaries at that time or not?
Yes, they
okay.
did.
So she had a total hysterectomy with a bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy. In lay terms, they call that a complete hysterectomy. And so all her hormones were going. What led to that? What led to the hysterectomy?
I had endometriosis.
Okay.
And
So they did the hysterectomy and put her on only estrogen at that point. So estrogen put her into a state of estrogen dominance, which adversely affects the cell's ability to properly utilize thyroid hormones. So this is a common presentation we see here at the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. Not necessarily that a woman that's had a hysterectomy, but women that have hysterectomies present like this, but this can happen in any woman as she marches through her menstrual life, normally between the ages of 40 as they move towards 50 at the normal change of life. There are some significant hormonal declines and imbalances that occur that adversely affect the other hormones in the body. And so Pam was experiencing this. So when you came into the center, now you came back in 2011, when you walked, what did you expect when you came in? What did you expect it to be like?
well, you expect it to be like you're going to any other doctor's office you've ever been into, you know, and it was totally abnormal to any other doctor's office. So,
What did you find different about it?
well, first of all, it's just such a comforting environment. It's not a threatening environment. People will smile. They call you by name. They act excited to see you. They act excited to meet you. That was the first time, so they acted extremely excited to meet us. And it seemed like it was just very important for them to put myself and my husband at ease from the very beginning.
Right.
And they did. It accomplished that.
And what we did and what Pam noticed when she came in, we decided years ago, the president of my company and I, that we were going to get out of medical practice and not run our office like a medical practice. We decided we were going to emulate the hospitality industry, the Ritz-Carlton, the Broadmoor, and high-end hotels, and we were going to no longer wear white coats and nobody's going to wear scrubs. We were going to dress up and look nice, and we were going to train our people to provide extraordinary hospitality and guest service and guest engagement, because that's very important. The way we treat our guests, I tell our staff all the time, the way we treat our guests is as important, if not more important, than the treatment we prescribe them, because everybody who has health issues, and this happens to all of us, as we mature, there are going to be health issues unless you've taken proactive steps to prevent them. As your hormones decline, your eating habits decline, you get fatigued, you begin to have a host of health issues. And they affect your quality of life, don't they? How is it affecting your quality of life? In what way?
Well, okay, so I don't want to say I was depressed, but I was overwhelmed in life. The craziest thing is I'd never had more stability in my life
Everything is going well,
Everything
but you
was
felt
going
more stressed.
well. But I myself did not feel like I was cultivating the stability that my husband was providing for me, that I wasn't playing my part.
So how did that make you feel about yourself?
Really bad. I mean, I just felt like I was not living up to what the people around me deserved for me to be.
Okay. And so this commonly happens as our health declines. It affects the quality of our life. It affects the way we relate to our family, our spouses, our friends, our church groups, our recreation. It begins to decline. So those are two structures that happen with people, the decline in health and then the change in the quality of life. Inevitably, most individuals then go to the third structure, which is a conventional doctor. And the conventional doctors will listen to your symptoms and your problems, and commonly, rather than addressing the underlying cause, they want to treat the symptoms. So they'll give you a bunch of drugs. Like they offered you, well, you got elevated cholesterol, put you on an anti-cholesterol drug. You're smart not having taken that. That's another subject for another time, but that can be very dangerous to your health because it adversely affects your ability to produce coenzyme Q10, which is a molecule that particularly the heart needs to produce energy. And also it causes a significant decline in cholesterol, which your brain needs to function well, and you need it to make vitamin D and a host of all your hormones are made from a cholesterol base. So cholesterol is an important healthy molecule in your body, contrary to all that you've heard on the media. So anyway, so finally you came to a point, you said, if I go down this path, I'm not going to get anywhere, so you have to make a change and make a decision to invest in your health. So you came in. Which one of our physicians did you see?
Dr. Ellsworth.
So you saw Dr. Ellsworth. How was that experience?
Oh my goodness, it was like amazing. It was like he was very caring. He was nurturing. He was very cautious. And I'm saying cautious is that he was conscientious of my nervousness, the anxiety I might be feeling. He was conscientious of David and what his perspective might be of where we were and what the future what exactly this looks like. And I think in the very beginning we tend to put everything in financial terms, and so it's very easy to sit back and go, well, what is this going to cost?
Right.
So you see the cost more than you see
the benefits.
The benefit. And so I think that's really something to overcome in the very beginning. It was for both of us. I was very concerned. David is the provider, so I didn't want to put any undue demands on him. And so he was very supportive and wanted to come and investigate it with me. He wanted to understand what this was, and because I felt so strongly about it. I was like, I just feel like this is the only way I can go because I'm not doing this. I know I'm not doing this. So I think that this group will empower me to enable myself to be independent.
Well, I think this is a very important point. You literally made what I call you did a 180. Which is hard for people to do. You're going down a path. You go, well, I know it's not doing very good, but I know this path, and we'll just go down it. Mom and Dad went down it, and we'll just go down it. But at some point, some people like you say, I don't want to go down this path anymore because I can see where it's taking me. It's going to lead me to one drug and another, and maybe you knew family members or others that had been on a bunch of drugs, and they didn't do well. So you did a 180 and took charge of your health and decided to come in, which kudos go to you. When you come in, I like to consider ourselves as a health coach. We're physicians, MDs, but I can't wave a magic wand and make anybody well. Doctors aren't gods. We can make some recommendations from a health point of view as a coach, as a health coach, just like you have a piano teacher, you got a golf coach, you got a speech coach. A coach is going to make recommendations to you, but it's the individual that has to assume the responsibility of carrying out those recommendations. So I like to say we're health coaches, you're the health athlete.
Yeah.
And you're in the health Olympics, and we want you to win a gold medal, which you've done. So when Dr. Ellsworth saw you, he concluded from his clinical history, his listening to the history, and his physical examination, that you had all the signs and symptoms. He knew from your history with the hysterectomy, you had the signs and symptoms of hormonal decline and an imbalance. So he made some recommendations. He put you on some natural desiccated thyroid. He put you on some progesterone, a little bit of estrogen, some biased, and he recommended some vitamins and minerals and a good healthy eating program. Okay, so you walk out of that. Did you feel overwhelmed when you left?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there for months, you take your little pamphlet and you like read it day by day. You start with the highlighted things because those must be the most important.
Right.
And so it's like, it is pretty overwhelming in the very beginning. But then it's empowering as well, too, because it's up to you. Someone has they've handed you a playbook with great guidelines, but they've also outlined it so it can be as overwhelming as like having it and you just don't know it. But on the other hand, you do have the playbook that you can open every day. And you can read through what the suggestions were, what the directions are, and, and you can carry those out. I was fortunate to have a husband that would sit down and read through it with me because it was overwhelming and my mind was still at the point where I could become overwhelmed so easily.
Well, you're very fortunate to have a husband that loves and cares for you like David and is very supportive. We find, unfortunately, there are people that drop off. They literally come in like you and they drop off the program because they go home and their husband goes like, oh, my goodness, another doctor. You've already seen 10. They've all told you you're crazy. You just need to stay on those antidepressants, so there's no support on the home front. Whereas that we find that those individuals whose spouses, whether it's a husband or wife who's come in, their spouses are supportive of them, usually do really, really well. So you're very fortunate and blessed to have a fine husband like David who was supportive of you and gave you encouragement. As a matter of fact, well, let's talk about how long did it take you before you could tell a difference?
Oh, probably in about 10 days when I
Really?
really began to start realizing or felt like my body was resting. And in 90 days, I was sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours. I was just at that point where I was just trying to catch up, and it was so weird to be able to like go to sleep and be asleep for that long. And it was almost frightening, honestly, when you wake up and you're like, but wait a minute, what just happened, And so, but in 90 days, I was feeling remarkably well. But in 6 months, my cholesterol went from 230 to 172. That's a number that the other doctors on the other side, they just don't have a debate there.
Right.
I mean, Trump, I won it,
Yeah.
And so, it was, so that was even more empowering and gave me the confidence to know that I was on the right track. I had chosen the right people to go to and listen to their advice, heed their advice, that had the advice to give. And so then I was just, I was bound and determined I was not going to listen to anyone else. I mean, it was just, okay, I'm done.
Well, that's wonderful, and you've had great results. Let me just ask you this. Looking back, when you first came in, if you had to rate your energy level, which really governs the way you feel in all areas of your life, on a scale of 1 to 10, when you first came in, what do you think your energy level was?
Probably about a 0.5.
So it was low energy. This is very common in our guests, okay? But if we'd asked her when she came in, she might have said, well, I'm about a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. What we find is when you really start feeling well, you went, I didn't know how bad I felt, because the decline in health in most people is so gradual, they just learn to live with it day by day and go, well, I'm better off than Betty down the street, I've got more energy than she's got. And you start comparing yourself to other people, trying to justify that you really are in good health. And so on a scale of 0 to 10 now, how would you rate your energy level?
Way above 10.
Well, commonly, when I meet guests in the hall, I'll see them, they've seen other doctors. They've been here for years, and I may just meet them walking through the hallway. Oftentimes, they come up and say, Dr. Hotze, thank you for giving me back my life. Have you ever felt that way?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
and this is the key, is what we want to do is help people get their lives back. And if they're women, we want women to get their lives back, and we want husbands to get their wives back. Does that make sense? So anyway, you did really well. And so David was watching along, and what was he thinking about all this?
Well, he had begun to have some health issues when I came. And so he went on the nutritional program with me, and he started also taking the supplements, and he began to feel a lot better, but after that year he wasn't feeling 100%. So he's like, you know what, I'm going to try it too. Which I tried very hard not to make the suggestion because it has to be up to the person.
That's right.
It's
Last thing you want is the wife
choice.
to, you need to go in and see Hotze Health Wellness Center.
It had to be his choice, so I was so excited, and so he did, and he's just had remarkable. Really gave him. It allowed him to finish a career that he loves.
Yeah, which is wonderful. Well, this is just a wonderful story, and I congratulate you because if I had I don't know where I put the gold medal, but we'll have to give it to you after the show. But she's definitely won a gold medal, and her husband David have won a gold medal in this. And I know this is that if you are experiencing the health issues that occur as you age and you're starting to feel poor and you're overweight, you've got diabetes or pre-diabetes or high blood pressure, you got some heart problems, you got joint muscle aches and pains, you got fatigue, you're not thinking well, you can't function at work as well. Well, I know that affects the quality of your life. That affects your family life, your work life. It affects your recreational life. And I know that you've tried the conventional methods. As most everybody that comes in here has tried to go down the insurance conventional method pathway, which only results in more drugs and more toxins. And I like to say people get sicker quicker when they get on all these drugs. So you've got to make a decision if you want to invest in your health. You've got to make a choice. Are you willing to do a 180 and invest in your health? Now, you can say, well, I'm going to think about it. Well, you can think about it, but it's up to you to decide whether you want to get started now and do a 180 and take charge of your health, or whether you're going to wait 6 months. How are you going to feel 6 months from now or a year from now? You're not going to feel better, I promise you. It'll get worse. So you got to decide, when do I want to take charge of my own health? When do I want to take personal responsibility and get myself on a path of health and wellness? Now, folks, it makes a huge difference in your life. Your work productivity goes up. All of a sudden, you're a valued employee or a wonderful employer, and you've got new ideas to grow your businesses and to employ more people. It helps you with your home life. You got energy to spend time with the kids and the grandkids and with your spouse. And you got time to do recreation. You feel like it. You start enjoying life again. And that's what it's all about. If we're going to be alive, my philosophy is we ought to feel alive. We ought to be enthusiastic, full of energy, vim, and vigor. And so Pam's a great example of that. Thank you for sharing your wonderful story with us. It means a lot. And don't hesitate to share this podcast and YouTube video with your friends. I know each one of you out there, besides needing help yourself, you've got friends that would benefit as well. So don't hesitate to pass on the good news. God bless you. Thank you for joining us here on Hotze Podcast. If you have any questions or would like to visit with one of our new guest consultants, don't hesitate to call us. Our number is 281-698-8698. 281-698-8698. And we'll be glad to visit with you. You have a new guest consultant who'll be glad to visit with you to make sure you're a good fit and that we'll be able to help you. Thanks for joining us today.
Information provided on this radio program is neither intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice and is not intended to replace the services of a physician, nor does it constitute a doctor-patient relationship. You should not use information from this radio program to diagnose or treat a health problem or disease without consulting with a qualified healthcare provider. If you have or suspect you have an urgent medical problem, promptly contact a professional healthcare provider or call 911. Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution radio program advises you to always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider prior to starting any new treatment or with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Any application of the recommendations from this radio program is at the listener's discretion.